The emergency alert screamed through every communication channel in the galaxy. Deep in the command center of the Galactic Council's fortress station, Admiral Fexari stared at the holographic display, showing the carnage. Her 4 purple arms shook as she watched entire planets go dark, one by one. "How many ships have we lost?" she asked her aide, though she already dreaded the answer. 17 fleets, Admiral. The Archani sent their best energy weapons. The Ethereals tried their most powerful mind attacks. Even the Corvin Empire's war machines couldn't scratch these things. The aide's voice cracked with fear. "Nothing works. They just keep killing." The Zephyrian colonies had been peaceful farming worlds. Artists, teachers, families who had never hurt anyone. Now they were being systematically butchered by something the galaxy had never seen before. Admiral Fexari closed her eyes and made the hardest decision of her career. She activated the emergency broadcast system that reached every corner of known space. "This is Admiral Fexari of the Galactic Council," she began, her voice steady despite her terror. "I am authorizing an unprecedented open distress call. The Zephyrian system is under attack by hostile forces beyond our understanding. Every major military power has attempted rescue operations. All have failed catastrophically. We are now requesting immediate assistance from any spacefaring civilization willing to respond. This is not a call for glory or profit. This is a call for anyone who believes innocent lives matter." The message spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Most species heard it and shook their heads sadly. If the great powers couldn't handle this threat, what could anyone else do? On Earth, specifically at the Luna mining station orbiting humanity's moon, Captain James Mitchell was having the worst day of his career. The coffee machine was broken, the heating system was acting up, and 3 of his mining crews had called in sick with space flu. Mitchell was a 45-year-old former Marine who had found his way into deep space mining after Earth's military downsized. His weathered face showed every year of hard living, from combat tours to asteroid mining accidents. He kept his graying hair buzzed short and his beard trimmed neat, habits that died hard even in civilian life. The old deep space receiver in his office was mostly used for picking up sports broadcasts from Earth. It wasn't even supposed to be able to detect alien transmissions, but the engineering crew had been tinkering with it during their off hours. When the Galactic Council's desperate message came through, Mitchell nearly spilled his coffee all over his desk. What the hell? He rewound the message and played it again, then a third time. Mitchell had seen enough combat to recognize genuine desperation when he heard it. Someone out there was dying, and the people asking for help sounded like they'd already tried everything else. He grabbed his communicator and started making calls. "Hey, Catherine, you still got that old cargo hauler running?" He spoke to Catherine Williams, who ran a small shipping operation between Earth and Mars. "Yeah, I know it sounds crazy, but I need you to listen to something." Next, he called Danny Parker, a hotshot pilot who transported supplies to the outer system mining stations. Parker had been in the Navy before going civilian, and Mitchell knew he still had that military sense of duty. "Danny, remember how you always said civilian life was too boring? Well, I might have something that'll fix that problem." One by one, Mitchell reached out to everyone he knew in Earth's small but growing space community. Mining engineers, cargo pilots, survey ship captains, even a few former military folks who had ended up in commercial space work. None of them were soldiers anymore, but they all shared something important. They were people who had chosen to work in the dangerous emptiness of space because someone had to do it. The response surprised even Mitchell. Within 6 hours, he had 23 ships volunteering for what everyone knew would probably be a suicide mission. They weren't military vessels or exploration ships. They were working spacecraft, tough, practical, and built to survive in places that would kill you if you made a mistake. "So let me get this straight," said Catherine Williams during their planning meeting. "Some aliens are getting massacred by something that already kicked the butts of every major space military, and we're going to fly out there in mining ships and cargo haulers to help?" "That's about the size of it," Mitchell confirmed. Williams was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled grimly. "Well, when you put it like that, how can we say no? Those poor people need help, and apparently we're the only ones crazy enough to try." That was the moment Mitchell knew they'd made the right choice. Earth might not have been invited to this fight, but sometimes you don't wait for an invitation to do the right thing. The rendezvous point near Proxima Station looked like the galaxy's most impressive military parade. Sleek silver ships from the Archon Empire floated in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with energy shields that rippled like water. The ethereal vessels were something else entirely. Living ships that pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, looking more like giant jellyfish than spacecraft. And then there were the Corvin dreadnoughts, massive wedge-shaped monsters bristling with enough weapons to level a small moon. Admiral Fexari stood on her command deck, reviewing the assembled rescue fleet with grim satisfaction. The best and brightest military minds in the galaxy had answered the call. Surely this force could succeed where others had failed. Then her tactical officers started making confused clicking sounds. Admiral, we're detecting additional ships approaching the rendezvous point. More volunteers? Excellent. Which species? The tactical officer hesitated. They're claiming to be from something called Earth. But Admiral, these ships, they don't match any known military configuration. Through the main view screen, Admiral Fexari watched the strangest collection of spacecraft she'd ever seen lumber into formation, if you could even call a formation. The ships looked like they'd been built in someone's backyard garage. Boxy cargo haulers with obvious modifications welded to their hulls. Mining barges that still had asteroid dust coating their armor plating. What appeared to be a converted passenger shuttle with missile pods bolted to the wings. Are those cargo containers strapped to that ship's exterior? Asked her aide, pointing at one particularly bizarre vessel. Before Admiral Fexari could respond, her communications officer announced an incoming transmission from the lead human ship. The face that appeared on screen belonged to a middle-aged human male with graying hair and tired eyes. He wore what looked like a simple work jumpsuit, not a military uniform. This is Commander David Williams, aboard the ship Stubborn Mule, representing Earth. We heard you folks needed some help. Admiral Fexari quickly consulted her database of known spacefaring civilizations. Earth? I'm sorry, but you're not listed in our records as a recognized space-capable species. Williams shrugged, a gesture that somehow conveyed both humility and determination. Maybe not officially, but we got the message loud and clear. People are dying out there, and that's all we needed to hear. Behind Williams, Admiral Fexari could see his crew moving around what was clearly a repurposed cargo ship bridge. A woman in mining overalls was running diagnostics on jury-rig weapon systems. A man in coveralls was welding something that sparked dangerously close to what looked like ammunition storage. Commander Williams, Admiral Fexari began diplomatically, while we appreciate your willingness to help, this is an extremely dangerous military operation. These entities have already destroyed some of our most advanced warships. Ma'am, with all due respect, we know it's dangerous, Williams replied. That's exactly why we came. See, back on Earth, we've got this saying, when good people are in trouble, you don't ask if you're qualified to help. You just help. Another human ship opened communications. This one was commanded by a weathered-looking woman named Catherine Rose, whose vessel appeared to be a mining barge with extra armor welded everywhere possible. Admiral, we're not soldiers, Rose said frankly, but we're people who work in space every day. We know how to jury-rig solutions when the fancy equipment breaks down. We know how to survive when everything goes wrong. And most importantly, we know how to work together when it matters. The alien rescue coordinators were baffled. Every other species had sent their military elites, their best-trained warriors, their most advanced technology. These humans had sent workers, miners, cargo haulers, engineers who looked like they'd be more comfortable fixing a broken hyperdrive than fighting cosmic horrors. But then the humans started asking questions that made the aliens pause. What exactly are we dealing with out there? Asked Tom Baker, a pilot whose ship looked like a converted racing yacht. I mean, everyone keeps saying they're invincible, but everything's got weaknesses if you look hard enough. Have we tried asymmetric approaches? Wondered Lisa Chun, whose engineering background showed in how she analyzed the tactical data. Sometimes when you can't go through something, you go around it. As the briefings continued, something strange happened. The humans listened to every detail about the failed rescue attempts, But instead of getting discouraged, they got more interested. They started discussing the problem like it was a particularly challenging engineering puzzle, rather than an impossible military scenario. "You know what this reminds me of?" said Mike Rodriguez, whose demolitions experience had gotten him assigned to a converted survey ship. "Back home, when we had to clear out those automated mining platforms that went haywire. Everyone said they were unstoppable too, until we figured out they were only programmed to deal with conventional threats." Admiral Fexari found herself genuinely curious about these strange volunteers. They weren't boasting or making grand speeches about glory. They were just there to help, treating the whole situation like it was simply something that needed doing. The real moment of truth came when the humans learned the full details about the Zephyrian massacre. The casual conversation stopped. The easy smiles disappeared. These rough-and-tumble space workers got very, very quiet. "They're killing families," William said flatly. "Kids, teachers, people who never hurt anyone." "Yeah," replied Catherine Rose, her voice carrying a new edge. "We heard. That's why we're here." Something had shifted in the human volunteers, and Admiral Fexari wasn't sure if she should be worried or relieved. The combined fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Zephyrian system, and for a moment, even the hardened space veterans fell completely silent. "Jesus Christ," whispered Commander Williams from the bridge of the Stubborn Mule, his voice barely audible over the comm channel. What they saw defied description. Massive crystalline structures, each one easily the size of Earth's moon, hung in space like geometric nightmares. They weren't ships in any sense that made sense. They were more like living architecture, all sharp angles and surfaces that seemed to bend light in impossible ways. And they were systematically devouring planets. Dr. Emily Harrison, a xenobiologist who had volunteered from the Mars Research Station, stared at her scanner readings in horror. The energy signatures, they're not just destroying the planets. They're consuming them, converting all organic matter into something else. On the main tactical display, the aliens showed the humans what they were up against. The crystalline entities move with terrible purpose, ignoring all attempts at communication. When the Archoni had tried their advanced energy weapons, the beams had simply been absorbed. When the Ethereals attempted psychic contact, the feedback had driven their telepods insane. The Corvin Empire's massive kinetic bombardments had passed right through the entities like they weren't even there. "They don't communicate," explained Admiral Fexari, her forearms gesturing helplessly at the tactical data. "They don't negotiate. They don't even seem to recognize other life forms as anything more than resources to be harvested." Captain Jack Thompson, who had spent 15 years running pest control operations on various Earth colonies before taking over a small cargo hauler, studied the tactical displays with a different perspective than the military commanders. Thompson was a thin, wiry man who had learned to think like the things he hunted: rats, insects, invasive species that could destroy entire ecosystems if left unchecked. "You know what these things remind me of?" Thompson said over the fleet communication channel. "Locusts. Big, nasty space locusts." "Come again, Jack?" Williams asked, genuinely curious. The humans had learned to listen when someone offered a different viewpoint. "Look at their behavior patterns," Thompson continued, pulling up his own analysis on a jury-rigged display system. "They're not soldiers. They're not even really intelligent in the way we think about it. They're more like a force of nature, a swarm. They probably don't even see us as enemies. We're just obstacles between them and their food." Lieutenant Jessica Moore, who had been analyzing the entity's movement patterns from her converted surveyor ship, suddenly sat up straighter. Moore had been a data analyst for the Earth Space Survey before volunteering for this mission, and she had a talent for spotting patterns that others missed. "Jack's right," she said, excitement creeping into her voice. "Look at how they respond to threats. When the Archoni attacked, they didn't fight back. They just adapted their defenses. When the Corvins tried brute force, the entities didn't get angry or retaliate. They just absorbed the attacks and kept feeding." "So what are you saying?" asked Catherine Rose from her mining barge. "I'm saying these things have probably never encountered prey that actually fights back smart," Thompson explained. "Think about it. They're cosmic predators. They've probably been doing this for millions of years, moving from system to system, eating everything in their path. But they've never had to deal with prey that thinks, adapts, and fights dirty. Dr. Harrison's voice crackled over the comm with growing understanding. They're like viruses or parasites, incredibly effective at what they do, but only against targets that follow predictable patterns. The alien commanders listened to this discussion with growing confusion. The humans were talking about these unstoppable cosmic horrors like they were discussing a particularly challenging home repair project. But surely, Admiral Thexari interjected, you can see the futility of dash. Ma'am, with respect, interrupted Mike Rodriguez, the demolitions expert who converted survey ship bristled with improvised weapons. There ain't no such thing as something that can't be killed. Everything's got a weakness. Everything's got something that'll put it down if you hit it right. Commander Williams pulled up the tactical display, showing the entity's current positions. 3 of the massive crystalline structures were methodically processing what had once been a thriving agricultural world. The psychic emanations from their feeding were being translated by the ship's computers, and the results made everyone's skin crawl. The translated messages were simple and repetitive. Inferior organic matter detected. Processing for conversion. Resistance is irrelevant. They really don't see us as anything more than raw materials, Williams observed grimly. Then let's show them what Earth raw materials can do when we're properly motivated, said Thompson, and something in his voice made the alien officers take notice. The humans had stopped asking questions about the entity's capabilities and started asking different questions entirely. How fast could the crystalline structures move? What was their response time to threats? Did they have any kind of centralized command structure? Most importantly, they weren't asking how to fight these things like a traditional military force would. They were asking how to hunt them. All right, people, Williams announced to the human volunteers. We didn't come out here to win a fair fight. We came here to save innocent people from something that thinks they're just food. Time to show these cosmic bullies what happens when Earth predators get personally involved. While the alien fleets maintained their careful formations and debated tactical approaches, the humans did something that made absolutely no sense to civilized warfare. They scattered like a pack of wild animals. What are they doing? Admiral Thexari clicked frantically as she watched the human ships break formation and head in completely different directions. Commander Williams had split his ragtag fleet into small groups, each one targeting different aspects of the crystalline entities. But instead of attacking directly, they started doing things that defied every military manual ever written. Captain Mitchell's mining barge, the Hard Luck, deliberately flew straight into a dense asteroid field. The alien commanders watched in horror, expecting to see the ship destroyed by the tumbling rocks. Instead, Mitchell used his mining expertise to navigate the chaos like he was born to it. This is Mitchell. His gravelly voice came over the comm, setting up shop in Sector 7. These space bugs want to eat planets? Let's see how they like a little indigestion. Mitchell's crew, all veteran miners, began doing what they knew best. They planted mining charges throughout the asteroid field, turning each floating rock into a potential bomb. When the nearest crystalline entity moved to investigate, Mitchell triggered a chain reaction that sent superheated metal fragments ripping through space at incredible velocity. The entity's shields, designed to absorb energy weapons, had no idea what to do with simple kinetic projectiles moving at relativistic speeds. For the first time since the siege began, one of the cosmic predators actually took damage. Well, I'll be damned. Mitchell laughed as he watched crystal fragments spinning away from the wounded entity. Turns out these fancy space bugs bleed just like anything else. But Mitchell's victory was short-lived. The entity, injured but far from dead, retaliated by firing some kind of disintegration beam that tore his ship apart in seconds. The alien observers assumed that was the end of Mitchell and his crew. They were wrong. This is Mitchell to all units. Came the impossible transmission. Don't count us out yet. We're going mobile. Through their sensors, the aliens watched in amazement as Mitchell and his crew emerged from the wreckage in modified mining suits, using personal thrusters to navigate the asteroid field. Instead of retreating, they were gathering up pieces of the destroyed ship and turning them into improvised weapons. These humans are completely insane, Admiral Thexari muttered. but there was something like admiration in her voice. Meanwhile, Captain Thompson was implementing his own brand of pest control on a cosmic scale. His cargo hauler, the persistent problem, had been modified with every dirty trick Thompson had learned in 15 years of hunting invasive species. The thing about bugs, Thompson explained over the comm as he laid his traps, is they're really good at what they do, but they're also really predictable. They follow patterns. And once you know the pattern, you can mess with their heads. Thompson had noticed that the crystalline entities always fed in a specific sequence. They'd drain a planet's atmosphere first, then process the organic matter, then extract the mineral resources. So he gave them exactly what they expected to find, with a few modifications. Working with Dr. Harrison, Thompson had created fake organic readings using modified waste products from the ship's recycling systems. When the entity moved into feed, it got a mouthful of carefully crafted toxins that played havoc with its energy absorption systems. It's like putting rat poison in cheese, Thompson explained cheerfully as the entity writhed in what could only be described as cosmic nausea. They expect food, they get indigestion that'll last 1,000 years. The real breakthrough came from Lieutenant Moore and her data analysis team. Working from her converted surveyor ship, Moore had been studying the entity's communication patterns, the psychic screams they used to coordinate their feeding. "I think I figured out how they talk to each other," Moore announced during one of the humans' improvised strategy sessions. "It's not really language. It's more like a computer network. They share information instantaneously across their entire, well, I guess you'd call a hive mind." "Can we hack it?" asked Rodriguez, who, despite being a demolitions expert, had picked up some electronic skills during his years in space. "Better than that," Moore replied with a grin. "I think we can give them a virus." Working with Dr. Harrison's biological expertise and Rodriguez's talent for making things explode in creative ways, they developed something the galaxy had never seen before, a psychic computer virus designed specifically to attack a hive mind network. The virus was elegant in its simplicity. Instead of trying to destroy the entity's communication system, it fed them false information. Suddenly, the crystalline predators were getting conflicting data about which planets to attack, where threats were coming from, and how to coordinate their feeding patterns. "It's like jamming their radio signals," Rodriguez explained as they watched the entities beginning to move erratically, "except we're jamming their thoughts." The alien fleets watched in amazement as the supposedly invincible cosmic predators began to stumble around like drunk giants. Ships that had absorbed the best weapons of 3 different empires were now confused by simple misdirection and guerrilla tactics that treated the whole situation like an elaborate pest control operation. But the humans weren't done yet. Each successful attack taught them something new about their enemy, and they adapted faster than anyone thought possible. When conventional weapons failed, they used unconventional ones. When their ships were destroyed, they kept fighting from the wreckage. When the entities tried to adapt to their tactics, the humans simply changed tactics faster than their enemies could keep up. "I'm starting to understand why their planet produced them," Admiral Fexari observed as she watched another impossible human victory unfold on her tactical display. "They don't fight like soldiers. They fight like survivors." The crystalline entities made the worst mistake of their cosmic existence when they decided to break human morale. They had been studying the strange new prey that actually fought back, trying to understand what made these creatures so persistent. In their alien logic, they concluded that humans fought so hard because they cared about the other organic life forms being harvested. So they decided to demonstrate the futility of that care. The massive entity hovering over what had once been the Zephyrian homeworld began broadcasting on all frequencies. The transmission showed a holding chamber filled with surviving Zephyrian families, children, elderly, artists, and teachers who had managed to hide during the initial slaughter. The crystalline being began torturing them slowly, methodically, while broadcasting their suffering across space. The psychic emanations that accompanied the torture translated roughly to, "Observe the futility of your resistance. These organic units suffer because you persist, cease interference, or witness extended processing." The human response was immediate and absolutely terrifying. Captain Thompson's voice came across the comm channel, and every trace of his usual good humor was gone. "Oh, you done messed up now," he said, his words carrying a coldness that made even the alien commander shiver. You just made this personal. The change in the human fleet was instantaneous. They had been fighting professionally, treating this like a difficult job that needed doing. Now they were fighting with something the galaxy had never seen before, the focused rage of a species that had learned to make protection of innocence a personal vendetta. Commander Williams' voice cut through the communications chatter. All human units, new mission parameters. We are no longer conducting a rescue operation. We are now conducting an extermination. What happened next will be studied in military academies for generations to come. Captain Mitchell, who everyone thought was dead, suddenly emerged from the asteroid field in a spacecraft that defied description. He and his crew had somehow welded together pieces from the destroyed mining barge, parts salvaged from alien wrecks, and chunks of asteroid into something that barely qualified as a ship but flew like a missile. "This is Mitchell," came his grim transmission. "We've got some Zephyrian survivors with us who want to help settle the score." Turns out these peaceful farmers know a thing or two about chemistry when they're properly motivated. The Zephyrians, it turned out, had been paying attention during the humans' guerrilla warfare lessons. Their agricultural knowledge, combined with human creativity, had produced biological agents specifically designed to disrupt the crystalline entity's energy absorption processes. Dr. Harrison coordinated the final assault from her mobile laboratory, a ship that had been destroyed and rebuilt 3 times during the fighting. "I've identified their dimensional anchor points," she announced. "The entities aren't from our reality. They're projecting themselves here from somewhere else. If we can collapse those anchor points, they get sent back to whatever hell spawned them," finished Rodriguez, who had somehow managed to strap enough explosives to the survey ship to level a small moon. "I can work with that." Lieutenant Moore, working with the surviving Zephyrian communications specialist, had turned the entity's own hive mind against them. "We're feeding them sensory overload through their psychic network," she explained as the crystalline beings began to writhe in apparent agony. "Every human emotion, our anger, our determination, our absolute refusal to let innocent people die, we're forcing them to experience all of it at once." The final battle was pure human stubbornness made manifest in space. While Commander Williams coordinated the evacuation of the last Zephyrian survivors, loading them onto every available ship in the rescue fleet, the human volunteers implemented a strategy that was part brilliant tactics and part cosmic scale spite. Thompson's pest control expertise had identified the entity's weakness to specific energy frequencies. Mitchell's mining knowledge had shown them how to create shaped charges that could damage crystalline structures. Dr. Harrison's biology background had provided the tools to disrupt their feeding processes, and Lieutenant Moore's data analysis had given them the key to the entity's dimensional anchor system. But it was Catherine Rose who delivered the killing blow. Her mining barge, loaded with every piece of exotic matter they could find, became a guided missile aimed straight at the largest entity's core structure. "Tell my kids I died doing something worthwhile," Rose transmitted as she began her final approach. "Negative, Catherine," Williams replied firmly. "Tell them yourself when we get home. All ships, prepare for emergency extraction." In a display of coordination that would have made any military proud, the human volunteers executed a plan that saved Rose, evacuated the remaining Zephyrians, and simultaneously collapsed every dimensional anchor point in the system. The crystalline entities, suddenly cut off from their source reality, began dissolving like salt in water. As the cosmic predators screamed their way back into whatever void had spawned them, the rescue fleet regrouped around the human ships. The Zephyrian survivors, safe aboard human vessels, were crying with relief and gratitude. Admiral Fexari opened a channel to Commander Williams. "I don't understand," she admitted. "Your species isn't even recognized as spacefaring. You had inferior ships, improvised weapons, no formal military training. How did you succeed where our greatest warriors failed?" Williams looked tired but satisfied. "Ma'am, you sent soldiers to do a soldier's job. We're not soldiers. We're just people who believe that when innocent folks are in trouble, you don't ask whether you're qualified to help. You just help. And if something tries to stop you from helping, well," he smiled grimly, "that's when things get personal." The Galactic Council would later grant Earth full membership status with unprecedented speed. They had learned something important about these strange Deathworlders. Cross them, and they'll fight you professionally. but hurt innocent people in front of them, and they'll make it their personal mission to remove you from existence entirely.